You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a charm, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag
For what?
with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club,
Why?
buy some bottles, impress them girls.
what?
It's more than life.
Oh, fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And I'm Ethan. And this evening, we have some more appetizers for you. We've had enough of this appetizer here that we could maybe call it the main course. And I'm talking about the UFC 286 Edwards versus Usman 3 prediction show. And yeah, it seems every 2 weeks there's a UFC numbered event, pay-per-view event, and I'm not complaining, but I remember at least last year and just in recent history that they usually have an event once a month, but they've been having them twice a month now. So, but anyway, this is a UFC 286 Edwards versus Usman. This is 8th, 2023, and that's in the Oz Arena, London, England, and which is the hometown for Leon Edwards, the champion Leon Edwards, after that crazy last second head kick finish to win him the belt over Kamaru Usman. But anyways, let's get into this right now. And so can I get a menu? And so the first bout on the main card, we're doing the main card prediction, is a middleweight bout between Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolce. And this seems like an interesting fight. I thought Marvin Vettori was kind of on the path to get a title shot for a while. Seemed like he was. I guess he didn't have a title shot, and he was wrecked up for a while leading into that title shot, and he's been a little bumpy since then when he lost to Cyril Donajee by decision at UFC 263, and that was June 12th, 2021. And since then, he's kind of been win, and the one win that he had since then was against Paulo Costa, and then most recent was a loss to Robert Whittaker. But you know, he seemed like he was a pretty tough fighter there for a while, but seems like he come kind of a little bit bumped in the road of his career, and he's still a relatively young fighter. Yeah, only 29 years old. And yeah, so he in his 25 matches, he's had 18 wins, 6 losses, 2 wins by knockout, 9 by submission, and 7 by decision, and 6 losses, with all 6 of them coming by way of decision, and then 1 draw. And let's see, like where Marvin Vettori was a couple years ago, where he's on and maybe looking for once it wins a shot at the middleweight title like him. And Roman Dole lives let's see here, on a 4-fight winning streak, and he's 5-1 in his last 6 fights, and in 13 bouts he's had 12 wins, 1 loss, and in those 12 wins, 7 have come by way of knockout, 3 by submission, and 2 uh, by decision, and then the one loss he was by a decision, and that was against Trevin Gills, and that was back March 2021, and that was just other than he's pretty much completed just with the loss there, and it'll be interesting how the fight goes. Like I said, I think it's kind of set up to see if Roman Dolidge it is like championship contender worthy, because Marvin Vettori got the chance to fight for the belt but wasn't successful. But I think in this bout here, I think I'm going to go with the kind of up and 4 years old either. He's still I think Roman Dolidge to win this. Just history shows Marvin Vettori he's hard to get out of there. The submissions. So I think in this first middleweight bout, I think Roman Dolidge is going to win by unanimous decision. So that's my first pick on this card. So on to the second on this card, the women's flyweight, Jennifer Maia versus Kate. And Jennifer Maia, she's for a while. Yeah, has 10 fights in the UFC all the way back to 2018. He's had kind of a rough go of it in her last 6 fights. She's 3-3 in her last 6 fights. But with over her 30 matches, she has 20 wins and 9 losses. 4 of the wins came by knockout, 5 by submission, 11 by decision, and 9 not and the 9 losses, 1 by knockout, 1 by submission, 7 by decision, and 1 draw. And just going off of that, what was exciting about this fight? She just had a little for her last 3, just at 500. The thing is, Keith O'Neill is defeated. Young fighter at only 5 years old, and she undefeated. Like I said, she has had 4 actual fights in the UFC, and they've all but one of them have come by finish. The first one back in February 2021 was a TKO knockout by Shayna Dobson, and then back in June 19, 2021, she had a Laura Propano submission rear naked choke, and then October 2nd, 2021, she had a Anya Shevchenko, a TKO knockout, and then in her last fight, was a split decision win by Roxanne Madafari. So that's a pretty impressive little win streak for an undefeated, and in her undefeated record, she's only had nine matches with 9 wins, 3 coming by knockout, 2 by submission, and 4 by way of decision, and obviously losses, of course. And I think I'll go with the up and coming fighter. That's kind of the I guess that's the trend I'm kind of on here. Up and coming fighters, the ones that are on the win streak, and once again, I think in the last 6 fights, they've all come by way of the young up and comer, young 25, to win the flyweight between Jennifer Maia versus Casey O'Neill. I think I'm going to go with Casey O'Neill to win by way of decision. So on to the third bout of this main card. We have a welterweight bout between Gunnar Nelson versus Brian Barberena. And it's right here. The fight. We have two veterans that are putting it up there, and Gunnar Nelson has had a bit of a rough go of it as well. He's only 3-3 in his 6, and Takashi Soto, he did win that in his last, and that was also in London, England as well. He's had quite a few fights in London, England, which was March 19th, 2022, but then he had lost 2 in a row. But they were some straight up killer guys that he lost to. He lost in unanimous decision to Gilbert Burns in September 28, 2019, and then he lost to the current champ, Lee Edwards, in a split decision in March 16, 2019, and that was also in London, England. Man, that's a hard one to pick here, honestly. And so in his 24 matches, he had 18 wins, 4 by knockout, 12 by decision, and 12 by submission, 2 by decision. And then in 5 losses, he has 1 been knocked out once, never submitted, 0 submission losses, 4 by decision, and 1 draw. This will be a hard fight to pick, honestly. And then Barberena has had a little bit more success in his last 6 fights, 4-2 in his last 6 fights, but he did lose his last fight to Rafael Dos Anjos by way of submission neck crank, and that was December 2022. And let's see, in all, out of his 27 matches, he has 18 wins, 11 by knockout, 2 by submission, 5 by decision, and then 9 losses, 2 by knockout, 2 by submission, and 5 by decision. So these guys are kind of polar opposites in the fact that more of a knockout artist, and Gunnar Nelson is more of a submission artist. And it seems a lot of times when it's a striker versus grappler, a lot of times the grappler usually wins than the striker. So I think because of that, I originally was going to go with Brian Barberena, but now that I see that he's more the striker and Gunnar Nelson is more the submission artist, I think in this bout, this welterweight bout between Gunnar Nelson versus Brian Barberena, I'm going to go with Gunnar Nelson. I'm going to go with him winning this by submission. All right, on the co-main event, lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev, which I would guess that this is probably a title contender eliminator bout to see whoever wins this maybe gets the next shot at lightweight championship. And maybe not so much for Justin Gaethje because he's had some of his shots, but definitely for Rafael Fiziev because he's kind of he's a up and coming fighter on his path to on kind of a hot streak. But Justin Gaethje, yeah, he's a fan favorite by a lot. He got there, got a guy on every time he fights. I think that's obviously why everyone loves him so much. And he is a 400 in his last 6, and well, his 2 losses have come once again by straight up murderers, straight up killers. His last fight was against Charles Oliveira, and that was May 7th, 2022. and he lost that fight to Charles Oliveira. I think everyone remembers that fight because he had almost knocked Charles Oliveira out early in that fight, and then Charles Oliveira just came back and got him in a rear naked choke afterwards. So that was a very memorable fight, if I remember correctly, and that was at UFC 274. And then he had the crazy war before that. He had the crazy war fight of the night fight, Michael Chandler, which he almost got knocked out a couple times. Michael Chandler almost got knocked out a couple times. Michael Chandler was in just a complete bloody mess after the fight, and that was at UFC 268, and that was November 6th, 2021. Then that second loss of his 4 of 2, the second loss was by Khabib Nurmagomedov, which obviously most people know he's undefeated, never been beaten. I'm trying to remember. This may have been Khabib October 24th. Check here. Oh, quite. That's Khabib's last fight. Okay. So, Nurmagomedov, and it was a technical submission triangle choke. But it's hard to go off of those as really taking any of those losses to heart, because those are some of the best lightweights in UFC history. But in his 27 matches, he has 23 wins, 19 by knockout, that's really impressive. 1 by submission, 3 by decision, and then 4 losses, 2 by knockout and 2 by submission. So he's definitely a stand-up with like talking about Rafael Fiziev. Will definitely get a shot if he wins this fight against Justin Gaethje. Definitely if he wins it impressively. He's only 30 years old. On a fight in the UFC. Yeah, he's 6-0. Has a 6 winning streak going right now, and those wins are those 6 fights. 3 of them come by knockout. The last 2 were by knockout. Was against Rafael dos Anjos, KO punches, and that was July 9th, 2022, which was the fight of the night. And the knockout before that was a spinning wheel kick against Brad, November 4th, 2021. And 5 of those 6 performance of the nights or fight of the nights, performance bonuses. That was the word I was looking for. In his 13 bouts, he has 12 wins, 8 by knockout, 1 by submission, 3 by decision, and 1 loss by knockout. So his there's levels to this, I guess. He has a similar style, knockout ability, but he's been in as fights as Justin Gaethje. How much? Years of experience. He's 34, so not much older, but just going on that, keeping the end of the young up and comers. So in this lightweight bout, Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev, I'm picking Fiziev. The way I think it's going to happen, someone's getting knocked out. Whether Rafael Fiziev wins or not, he's either knocking Justin Gaethje out or he's getting knocked out in this one. All right, to the main event. The main event here is a welterweight bout between the champion Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman, and this the fight of a fighter seeing defeat from the snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. That fight reminded very similar to the first Anderson Silva fight between Chael Sonnen, where he was just getting like the taken down and ground and pound like for all 5 rounds, and then in like the waning seconds of the fight, he throws up a triangle choke to choke Chael Sonnen unconscious. But this is a little different because it was the challenger that did it to the champion, and it wasn't by submission. It was by a brutal head kick knockout. And these guys have some history because it was a while back. Yeah, all the way back in 2015, Edwards lost once to Kamaru Usman in a decision. So they already had some history, and Leon Edwards looked defeated up until the point he landed that head kick. That's what was so wild about it. It looked like he was just maybe just going to coast to another unanimous decision loss, but that's not how this fight happened. And in these, he's on a hell of a win streak, leading into this fight as well. He's on a 10 win streak, and you have to throw in the controversial eye poke against Bilal Muhammad, where that ended up being a no contest, which that was March 13th, 2021. So a lot of people remember that fight. Whoever won that fight may have got a shot at Kamaru Usman, but it ended at in the 18-second mark of the second round. But anyways, so Leon Edwards has been in 24 bouts with 20 wins, 7 by knockout, 3 by submission, 10 by decision, and then in the 3 losses, he has no losses by knockout, 0 by submission, 2 by decision, and 1 disqualification, and then that no contest about. He's Silva as the greatest welterweight of time, as fighter in general of time. Like it's just similar to Dog made in that same vein. I guess John as well defended his belt. So a good amount of times he defended his belt 5 times before he lost it to Leon Edwards. So that's not quite as impressive as Anderson Silva and John Jones, who defended their belts upwards to almost double-digit times. But leading into that fight with Leon Edwards, the second fight, had a win streak in the UFC, a ridiculous win streak in the UFC from the day on July 12th, 2015. It was 15-fight win streak leading into that fight, and it looked like he was pretty much coasting to a win in this fight before he got caught by a head kick by Leon Edwards, and that was at UFC 278, and that was August 20th, 2022, in the 4:04 mark of the 5th round. So there was literally less than a minute left in the fight before he caught that head kick, caught by that head kick. So, and he's been in 22 fights with 20 wins, 9 by knockout, 1 by submission, and 10 by decision. And then in two losses, 1 by knockout, and which was that one single knockout head kick by Leon Edwards, and then one by submission. Let's see, losses by decision. This is every card argue that this is his fight of the year, but when it comes down to trilogy fights, I think you could definitely like not really a controversial ending, but like an epic ending, legendary ending, a legendary win by Leon Edwards. But still, it makes it hard to forget that Kamaru Usman was pretty much dominating that entire fight, besides maybe the first round when he got taken down and Leon Edwards took his back and maybe won the first round, but 2 through 4 and a good portion of the 5th round, he pretty much dominated that fight. And he's already back in 2015 won a fight that was before he was the champion, won a fight over Leon Edwards by decision. So and people, like I said, like to title him as like maybe one of the best welterweights of all time. I guess that would be right up there with George St. Pierre. So that makes that a little hard to argue. Makes that hard to argue, honestly. I think I'd probably more lean towards George St. Pierre. I would Kamaru Usman. But just from seeing how dominant he was in those first 2 fights before getting knocked out in this bout between welterweight championship bout between the champion Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman, I think I'm going to have to go with Kamaru Usman to retain his belt, get his belt back. And what both these first 2 fights were leading into was going to be another decision. I think Kamaru Usman is going to win this one by decision. So there you have it. With the first middleweight bout between Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. I have Roman Dolidze to win by decision. And then in the women's flyweight bout between Jennifer Maia versus Casey O'Neill, I have Casey O'Neill to win by decision. And then in the welterweight bout between Gunnar Nelson versus Brian Barberena, I have Gunnar Nelson to win by submission. And then in the co-main event, lightweight bout between John Gage versus Rafael, I have Fiziev to win by knockout. No matter what, I think someone's getting knocked out in that bout. And then in the welterweight championship bout between Leon Edwards, the champion, versus Kamaru Usman, I have Kamaru Usman getting his belt back by way of unanimous decision. So there you have it. I think that's all I have for you. And that's the UFC 286 prediction show, Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman 3. So that's all I have for you this evening. So can I get a check, please?